Hi teachers, welcome to another 5th grade teacher-facing video for our Passport Social Studies lessons. My name is Mr. Giordano and I'm a 5th grade virtual content specialist. Today, we will be looking at our Unit 2, Day 13 lesson. This lesson topic is Rethinking Monuments. Our focus question is how do monuments reflect different points of view and our historical memory? Our learning objective will be to understand how monuments reflect and shape our understandings of history. We have come to the end of Unit 2, European Exploration. This is our last lesson for this unit. During today's lesson, students will start by looking at one person we've already studied, Christopher Columbus, and consider whether we should celebrate this person by having a monument to honor them. Finally, students will have the opportunity to act as the City of New York Monument Committee. In small groups, students will act as though they have been assigned the statue of Columbus at Columbus Circle and have to decide on one of the three options for this monument: make a new monument, modify the existing monument, or leave the monument the way it is. After students complete their monument project, they will share out their work with each other. The other groups in the class will provide feedback to each group using the tag protocol. This protocol has been discussed in a previous video as part of our 5th grade Passport to Social Studies video series. One instructional strategy to help facilitate the share out and deepen student understanding and critical thinking during this activity is through a structured academic controversy, or a SAC. Today, we will be reviewing what a structured academic controversy is and how to conduct one in your classroom. Before we begin, let's review what the actual project is that students will be completing. Again, these are the directions for students. They're going to work in groups to decide on which option they would like to follow for this project. They can either make a new monument, modify the existing Columbus monument, or leave the monument the way it is. At this point, you can pause your screen or this video so you can read further what each group will be doing. Next, following their group presentations and share-outs, the rest of the class will be providing tag feedback to their classmates as they present their projects. They will be T, telling one thing that they liked, A, asking one question to their classmates, and G, giving one suggestion or piece of feedback for further improvement. So what is a structured academic controversy? A structured academic controversy is a sequence of scaffolded steps where small groups of students increase their understanding of a community or shared problem. They consider alternative perspectives and engage in a shared decision-making process. This instructional practice requires students to present their claims in a focused and coherent manner using key facts, details, and examples, as well as learning how to dialogue across differences to reach a group consensus. This type of activity is something that definitely requires practice and follow-through, and is something that is best done repeatedly over the course of the year, where students can continue to improve and work on these claim-based discussions with one another. Part of setting up a structured academic controversy is certainly setting norms with students. This includes clarifying for students the purpose of their deliberation, to come to a decision together. This also involves defining and discussing the word consensus with your students. A consensus, or a noun, is a general agreement about something, an idea or opinion that is shared by all the people in a group. It's also important to state or elicit from students appropriate behaviors and norms for this type of higher level discussion. For example, it's important to hear all sides equally and speak one at a time. It's also important to listen well enough to respond to and build upon each other's ideas. So how do you actually set up a structured academic controversy, especially thinking about this type of activity, where there's three options for students to look at? Well, first, we want to prepare. This means selecting an issue that is central to the course or lesson. For today, it's rethinking monuments. So for our topic today, we will be deciding what to do with this Columbus statue at Columbus Circle. Again, students will have three options: to make a new monument, to modify the existing monument, or to leave the monument the way it is. Next, you want to set up the group work and actually consider how this will look in your classroom. And for this type of activity, it's important to assign each group a topic from the list above. As the work goes on and the type of discussion moves on, later they'll be able to drop the side that you've assigned them and actually be able to express what they think for themselves. But at this point, you'll be able to give them one of the three topics to focus on, and they'll be able to then pitch the information and read about the position that they've been given on the issue. They'll then plan a presentation on that specific position that they've been given and the key arguments, and students should focus on the three most important arguments for their position. The next piece of this will be the share out. The share out will work in a specific order. One side will present their three important arguments to the other groups. The other groups need to listen very carefully, take notes, and then repeat back the arguments in order to ensure that they understood them clearly, as well as ask any questions as necessary. The groups will then switch, and the process is duplicated so all the groups can present. Each side provides feedback to the others until everyone is satisfied that their position has been clearly heard and understood. Finally, our class discussion and the consensus building. The groups will now work to come to a consensus or maybe a disagreement. The students will proceed as their own individual selves, meaning they will now drop the sides that they've been given back in the beginning of the project. They'll be able to use information that's been presented both from their experiences and research on their topic that they were originally given, as well as what they learned from hearing the other groups present on the other options and the other topics. As a class, the students will work to forge a position as a whole group. They may change their minds as they listen to each other's perspectives, and they will see if they can come to a consensus on this issue or at least clarify their overall disagreement. For this type of activity, it's important to also have a note taker, where students will be able to take notes as they hear one another present, as well as prepare the presentations themselves. Here's an example of a structured academic controversy note taker that's been modified for this activity. If you click this hyperlink here, it will take you to a new Google Doc that you'll have the option to make a copy of. And here you see that a copy has been made of the template. First, students will jot down the members of the class for each group. You may need to create two sets of group where there's actually 6 groups in the class, where you're splitting the class into 6 different groups, and half of the class will be the first 3 groups, and the second half will be third groups. Meaning that instead of there being larger groups and only having 3, you can actually split the class into 6 groups and have 2 groups that are going to focus on making a new monument, 2 groups that will focus on modifying the existing monument, and 2 groups that will leave the monument the way it is. That decision is up to you based on how many students you have in your class and what that actually looks like. Next, students are going to jot down relevant evidence from their research that would be for their group and their specific argument. And then the share out. As each group shares out, they're going to jot down the main arguments for each side and against each side. Thinking about, again, the 3 groups, making a new monument, modifying the existing monument, and leaving the monument the way it is. So again, they're jotting down the arguments for, and as well as the arguments against. Finally, they're going to list possible solutions. What are some routes of action that they can take after hearing all the groups present, and then the common ground reached, the consensus reached, following the final share out. So this is a note taker that students may want to use and you might want to implement for this activity if you decide to go the route of a structured academic controversy. It's also important to realize that there are other sources online that really dive into this work that you can certainly take and modify. One of the sources here further breaks down what a structured academic controversy is, and is something that you may want to take a look at to further break down this teaching strategy. Finally, there's also videos on YouTube and the teaching channel where you can actually see a structured academic controversy played out to get a better visual and sense of what this looks like in a classroom. It's also important to note that this instructional practice is aligned directly to our Common Core and next generation learning standards, thinking about English language arts, and our speaking and listening standards, especially the range of collaborative discussions, small group, whole class, thinking about different ideas and building on new perspectives and expressing arguments clearly. At this moment, you can certainly pause this video to take a look at some of the key speaking and listening standards that this type of activity directly aligns to. Okay, fifth grade teachers, I want to thank you for joining me today to learn more about conducting a structured academic controversy in your classroom. Good luck, and I hope to see you soon.